time for Spirit Focus with Robert Painley. I hope everybody's well and you're having a good week. It's been an interesting few weeks with politics and with COVID and with everything going on. Hopefully this will be a place where you can kind of decompress from some of that and focus on something else for a little while. We've got a little bit of wine tonight, so it's been a long day down here. But I do want to welcome you all and thank you for joining. So today, again, if you can, prayers for Matthew Delfino, if you would be so kind to do so, and keep him in your prayers. There's also, we'll get into a story here about a poor little dog who had their paw injured, and prayers up for this little puppy as well. Other than that, we'll go ahead and get started. So today, I want to talk about the spiritual journey, because I had an appointment this week that was a bit profound for me in a variety of ways, because it brought me back to my childhood and as well with my present in dealing with spirit. So I'm going to go ahead and give a little background. Now, understand that this is a client of mine, and I'm going to try to protect their privacy, obviously, as much as possible, because I don't want to give out a lot, so overly amount of detail, but enough that you can understand what's going on. So we're going to start off with what happened to begin with. And I got a phone call from a client, and the client told me that that they had issues with every home that they had ever lived in, and they've lived in several. This time they happen to live north of where I am in Fort Lauderdale, in a house that they've lived in for a few years now. And they've had issues even at this house. So it's happened all of her life, the woman who calls. So there's a woman and her husband and their son. And while they were having this experience all their lives with every house that they've lived in, the new house was having issues, particularly with the child. Having a variety of things happen, for just being bothered all night with a variety of spirits around the bed, and just a bad feeling, so much so that it was very, very challenging for this child to sleep in that room ever. And that created a lot of problems and anxiety, obviously, from the standpoint of the child, and also from the standpoint of the parents, who are trying to help this child understand what's going on, but not knowing exactly what's there or how to help this child. So they had a variety of people work with the child over years to try and help that child, but they never looked at it really from a spiritual perspective, that there was actual spirit activity, even though the child was saying, this is what's going on. They didn't believe what the child was talking about. In desperation, the family reached out to a variety of people, and in that process reached out to some people who, as I warn people every time I do one of these shows, that there are some people out there who do, or theoretically do, this type of work, who may not be as reputable as others, and tried maybe to take advantage of the situation. And I won't go into detail there. But let's just say after this happened, we were put in contact with one another, and we started to work right away. And I consulted a couple of medium friends of mine who were wonderful and gave me some great advice and insight from their perspective of what they felt was going on in this residence. And going to the residence was interesting because there were meeting the child, meeting the woman and her husband. There was just so much energy in this house, and all of them had different gifts and abilities, which is why I think this child had so much going on, because both parents had ability, one more so than another. And from this perspective, the child really didn't have a choice but to really probably inherit some of this gift in some way. And so that was a little bit challenging. Trying to gain the child's trust, understanding and speaking like a 14, 15, 13, 12, 11, 10, I don't know exactly how old the child was, but to work with the child in this way, going through this, this time frame of their life, because I went through that myself, being a gifted person, but not knowing exactly how to work with it. It was easy for me to talk with this child and figure out how to how to work with him to understand how gifted he was and what he was seeing. And again, when you had this gift at that age, you think that you're crazy. You think that, what you're seeing is not right, that, you don't want to talk to your parents about it because you're going to think your parents are going to think that you're crazy. So you hold it all inside, and you have that fear and that anxiety, and you're afraid to talk about it, particularly when you have something nasty involved in the home. That you sense and feel, but nobody else does, because it's hard without that tangible evidence sometimes to understand how that can have an impact on someone's life. So in talking with the son, it was very clear once I told him what I was seeing, how I was seeing it, who they were, the number of people that I saw, it was exactly in line with what he was seeing in the room. And then he realized that I'm seeing the same thing, because I was able to describe the spirits. I was able to describe what was going on, how he was experiencing this. And it was the first time that he felt open and ready to discuss some of the things that were happening to him in some very negative ways and how they were impacting his life. So that was amazing. And it was a revelation. It was a revelation for the child, but it also brought me back to when I was, in that preteen years, and trying to figure out with my gift what I was seeing and who I could talk to and who I could trust. And the answer for myself at that time was nobody. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my siblings. I didn't tell my friends what I was seeing. I just dealt with it. It was tough. It was a rough childhood. So dealing with this child, it was trying to, I call him a child, as a young adult at this age, but from my perspective, they're all children at that age. So it was one of those things that being able to help him understand that he wasn't crazy in a way, that he was, or in any way, but that he understood exactly what was happening and why it was happening, and trying to get him to understand that, that he's in control of the situation. He doesn't feel that way because they were trying to scare him intentionally. And from the spirit perspective, it was interesting because this spirit was just angry. Now, the soul that I encountered, this particular nasty one that was in the room, would pace back and forth at the end of the bed. And in this pacing, you could feel his anger and the frustration. And when I asked my spirit guides what was happening, apparently the spirit was abused as a child. And harbored a lot of resentment to all of the abuse, and not having a happy childhood, not having a happy adulthood, and just had a miserable life, and past, having a miserable life, and was taking it out on this poor kid because he could, and he enjoyed it. He just felt this, he had a miserable childhood. Everybody should have a miserable childhood. So he felt this anger and this frustration and took it out on this poor child and tortured him in a physical sense, but in a real spiritual and a mental sense, by showing himself the way that he did, by being angry and feeling the fear, and just having him pace back and forth and being seen by this kid. It was a horrible, horrible experience for this child. And I know that from personal experience, how bad that can be. Now, the mother also had similar experiences when she was a child growing up, and dealt with them like I did. Tried to hide them, tried to just put them in the back, just tried to bury them, because she too didn't have anybody that she could talk to about it, and still to this day was petrified of opening herself up to the gift that she has. So we spent a lot of time working primarily with the child to make sure that he was ready and able to understand that he's in control of his own gift. That once he understood that he was protected and how to protect himself, that he could go ahead and move on to a better, happier existence. Because there's nothing worse in life than feeling that you're out of control with your life. So look at it from any perspective. If you suffer from alcoholism or drug addiction or any other type of addiction or problem, or even if it's just a job that you dislike, when you don't feel in control, COVID is a big player here, because a lot of us now don't feel in control of our life, our control of our destiny. That we have this, this unseen, virus floating out in the air that at any moment could, affect our lives in very, very negative ways, sometimes permanent ways, sometimes in fatal ways. So there's all this uncertainty out there. And when you have that type of uncertainty, you don't feel comfortable. And look at the amount of suicides and abuse and divorces and everything else that's going on in the world right now. A lot of it is attributable to this type of um, this feeling of not being secure in your life. So I want people to understand that, particularly when you're being attacked by spirit in this way, once you are able to gain control of the situation itself and understand that you have control, unless it's something incredibly negative, that you can go ahead and once you get a handle on that, once you're able to take control of it, that you're going to have a happier existence. You may not like it, but it's a gift that you were given. And it's one that you're going to have to deal with. And sometimes you can be like myself and turn it off for years and then get back into it. But it never went away during that time. I just kind of ignored it and pushed it off to the side until I was much more comfortable with it. And the same circumstances here. You've got, a woman who's younger than I am who, now wants to open up and wants to try and figure out that gift for herself and what to do there and how to best do it for herself in particular, in a way to help her child. And this is a mother's love for her son and trying to figure out, how to best help him. And the best way for her to help him is to understand her own gift, understand her limitations, understand her the extraordinary gift that she was given and has not utilized to date, and then figure out how to use that gift to best help her son in his journey, because his gift, quite frankly, is stronger than hers. And he's going to have to deal with that for the rest of his life. But she can be an integral part in that now, in that development of her son. But this is where the teaching aspect of what I do comes into play, to try and help people understand their gift, the life course that they're supposed to be on, and how they're supposed to get there. And, for her spiritual journey, it kind of mirrors my own, but, I got to my 30s and had to deal with it. She had not. And hasn't as of this point, but now wants to embrace it because she understands the impact and the importance as a mother to a child, how her development in this regard can best help him. For him, it's not being scared any longer, to be in control. And his journey is just beginning. I mean, he's had this for a while. He's had it all his life, but now the fear and the anxiety and all this other aspect of his life can change so that he can have a better life now and move through the rest of his life, understanding that he's in control. Again, once you understand that, your life becomes much better. And for myself, it's great to kind of revisit that, which is why I wanted to kind of explore that this evening, to talk to people about, your own spiritual journey. I just want people to understand that we all have a different one, that you can, and there is free will in your spiritual journey. So what you really need to do is focus on what you believe your gifts are. And they may have absolutely nothing to do with mediumship. Absolutely, you may not be empathic, you may not be a medium, you may not be a psychic, you may not have any of these. I really do believe everybody has some of a gift, an intuitive nature or something, or empathic nature of some sort. But how you tap into those really depends on your personality and what you really want out of this life, whether you're a newer soul or an older soul. Because I find that most older souls are the ones that really want to develop this gift more. They understand that the other aspects of life are relatively mundane, that this is why we're here, to help others on their journey, to help other people discover their path, help newer souls understand what their path is, and to get the experiences that they're supposed to get out of this life. So look at your soul's journey. Look at what you're supposed to be doing, what you want to do, and what makes your soul sing. And it doesn't have to do anything with spirituality. It could be playing the banjo. If that's what makes your soul sing, and you did that as a child or as an adult or whatever you are in your life, understand that this is something that you can change your life for and make your life better, regardless of how much time you have left on this planet. So, pour some more wine. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the spiritual journey in this world sense. One of the things that I think people ask me, because the questions come up in the last couple of days a lot with me from a variety of clients, where we've talked about death and wanting to know like the exact time of death, when they're going to die, how much time they have left, blah, blah, blah. And I get this question a lot. And I always answer it the same way: is I won't read death with people. I've done it a couple of times in my life, once accidentally, and a couple of times where I've actually had to, I knew they were going to pass. They knew they were going to pass. Doctors knew they were going to pass. And so I gave them information close to the time of their passing, so it could make their passing easier. That aside, I don't talk about time of death for a couple of reasons that I've mentioned on previous shows, but just kind of recapping some of that. One, there's no benefit to doing it. There's always somebody out there who, oh, Robert, please tell me when my time of my death, what's going to happen. I refuse because these are the same people that they say, oh, I can handle it. Just let me know so I know how much time and what I can do. But two things can happen. One, it is possible that I misinterpret something. I am human. I am fallible. There's a possibility that I could be wrong, and I may say something to somebody, and they'll go sell their house and go spend their life savings to go enjoy the last 6 months of their life. And it turns out not to be the last 6 months of their life, and they got a long life ahead of them. But they've done all of this because I said something. Not a good thing. Not a responsibility I want to take. That's a huge responsibility I just won't go there with. And it's not good for their journey, because the same people who say that I can handle this information are the same people that, if they got a cancer diagnosis, would be the first people in line to get chemotherapy to save their life and do everything they could to prolong their life as long as possible. So what you think in a conceptual term, from the people that I've met and worked with, and I've got a lot of life experience behind me, I get people who they feel that they're going to react one way to news, but then the reality is that they don't. And death is one of those circumstances. So we are kind of hardwired to want to continue with our life. If I threw you into a river right now, you'd try to swim to the top. You just wouldn't try and swim to the bottom. You would try to do whatever you could to save your life. And this is kind of a human trait, to hang on to life as long as possible. So my telling people about death is never a good thing. So that being said, if my talking about death isn't something that I'm comfortable ever doing, one of the things that I want people to be comfortable with is, no matter how much time that you have on this plane, to be able to use that time to the greatest benefit for your soul's highest journey that you possibly can. I've used the story before. I think of, how much time we're here, to find out, on that journey. I used the story of a woman who, was in her 80s and learned a lesson about gay people, about they had a complete hatred of gay people because of an experience that they happened in their life, from a murder, years ago in their childhood. And from that murder, it happened at the hands of a gay man, and they hated gay people because of that, all gay people, because they saw them all in that same light. And again, this isn't about me, but because of proximity to me and their life, and seeing how I live my life and what I do and how I treat people and how I work with my relatives and my family, it changed their opinion, even in their 80s, and got rid of that hatred, so that I don't care if it's 6 months before this individual crosses, their soul has learned this lesson of forgiveness, learned the lesson that they didn't have to hate people like this their entire life, that it was a particular circumstance to this individual, not all individuals. And that's something that we can take into our present with COVID, with Black Lives Matter, with, Blue Lives Matter, with, All Lives Matter, with whatever you want, with whatever bent that you're thinking of. We all just have to get to a place where we are spiritually trying to grow and helping one another out as much as possible, because it really is in the giving, in the showing of the love, that we get that love back. So I hate to put labels on anything. I mean, there are some very legitimate causes out there where focus needs to be on particular issues and on particular segments of society at particular times, so that we can try to become a fairer and more just society for all of us, because it benefits us all when we are an equal society. So that spiritual journey should always be kind of paramount in your thought process. This isn't like a job where you look at your 5-year plan and where do you want to be 5 years from now. It's kind of an old interview question. It's like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you can kind of rationally conceptualize where you might want to be in a professional sense 5 years from now. But usually to do that, you have to say, whatever profession that you're choosing, and you kind of backtrack it from 5 years. So if 5 years, I don't ago. If 5 years from now you wanted to be an air traffic controller, but you haven't taken any college credits, and you understand that you need at least a bachelor's degree to be an air traffic controller, then you need to know that, within a year, because you got the 5-year plan, within a year you need to start school so that you get that bachelor's degree, so at least you meet the minimum requirements of doing that. So you're able to backtrack a little bit through that process of finding out exactly where you need to be professionally in 5 years. For myself, in a spiritual sense, you never have to worry about that, because spirit's going to happen when spirit's going to happen. You don't have a whole lot of choice to move things up in a faster sense most of the time. Excuse me. The one thing that you have to do is understand that the lessons that you're here to learn are going to be put in front of you, perhaps in a variety of ways, in a variety of fashions. So this is one of the things that you have to just kind of consider, that you don't have a lot of control over it. You can pray and ask spirit to present things to you faster, or to let spirit know that you're ready for it. But be very specific about what you want. Just don't say something like, well, I want to see more people, or something of this nature that's very generic. So try and find out what you can best do in this light to get it specifically and incrementally for yourself, so that you're not taking yourself out of sync or jumping too far ahead in your life lessons. But if you're looking to try to grow spiritually, which is, if you're watching this channel, one of the things that I'm assuming that you're trying to do, look at all of the aspects of your life, the gifts that you have, write them down. This is kind of like, if you want to be the air traffic controller and you want to backtrack to figure out what you need to do to get to be where you want to be in 5 years. From a spiritual sense, I guess one of the things that we'd all want to be, if you want to say, don't say, I want to be more spiritual. This doesn't mean anything. In what way do you want to be more spiritual? What do you want to do? How do you want to give back? What do you think your gifts are? How do you think that you could contribute? Because there's a lot of people who do, kind of what I do in different ways. We have different levels of gifts and different aspects of gifts that we have. But what do you specifically want to do with it? Some people want to work with animals. Some people who are empaths are they're teachers. They're in professions where they deal with nurses. They deal with people and helping people and moving people along on their life journey. That's that empathic sense that happens along there all the time. So understand what you think that your gift is, and don't overestimate your gift. Because you may be empathic doesn't mean that you're a medium. And you're never going to be somebody that you idolize, that does this professionally in some big capacity and makes a ton of money. Because if you're money motivated with spirit, not really the best way to get centered. If it happens, it happens, and God will provide, and you will be able to perhaps be successful. But I've never known anybody that has increased their gift because of greed. If the overarching aspect of life is to acquire money, how you acquire that is also just as important as having it and what you do with it. My husband talks about that on his show, and maybe being philanthropic, or how you're able to help other people with that wealth that you acquire or that you have, not making it all about you, and using that the money to help others is a beneficial way to have money. Using it all for consumption for your personal self, not exactly the most spiritual way to live your life. So figure out what it is that you actually want and how to get there. And I suggest that everybody kind of put this down in writing. What is it that you're really looking for in life from a spiritual sense? I'm not going to look at your professional life, because your profession is your profession. And that really, while it touches on the spiritual, it sometimes is a means to an end. From a financial perspective, or from a lifestyle perspective, or whatever it happens to be. But the spiritual really doesn't have to always or ever line up with the professional. The spiritual side of you is trying to figure out how to be a good person. I think just about every religious tenet comes up with the fact that, do unto others, basically, as you'd have done unto you. Just be a good person. That's all you really need to do. Make the world a better place than you found it. That's all we're asking. You don't have to do it in some grandiose way. Little incremental things that you do every day on a daily basis, or just being and living your life in a way that comports with being a moral and upstanding human being as best you can. Again, you're going to make mistakes. You're gonna have errors in judgment. You're going to hurt people. You're going to be hurt. These are all part of the human experience. So don't worry about those so much. But if you look at the big picture of what you're trying to do, whether it's helping animals or helping poor people or helping children or helping elderly people or just helping people through COVID or just being there to listen to people when they have a problem, making yourself available for people in this day and age is such a rare treat and something that can really make the difference in a person's life. So really do try to figure out a way on your spiritual journey to get yourself where you want to be. I can't, in this setting, I can't tell you what that journey is. If you want me to help you in some way, just reach out to me at rapainley@gmail.com. I'm very good. It's one of the gifts that I was given is to get people on their true spiritual path. I will let you know whether you're off of it, what you did to get off of it and back on. These are some of the things that this is one of the reasons for me to be here is to help people in that regard. I mean, it even happened to me in my own life. I'm on that journey right now of helping people in this way, and it's not a way that I did it before. I was in corporate America previously, and didn't do. I mean, I still did this, dabbled in it, but now this is what I'm doing full time to help as many people as I possibly can to try and make sure that they're living their best spiritual journey, and hopefully this is helping. And so I hope that this conversation can help. It's hard for me to do it, be very general and be extremely helpful with people on an individual basis because it has to be very general because there's just too many avenues, and it will be very, very specific to people that I talk to that are clients of mine. I get into really specific details of their life, what happened to them, why they are the way that they are, what we need to do to move forward. And it's never from a point of judgment. I mean, it's none of us should be judging others with their lifestyle choices or what they choose to do in life or how they've lived it. But if you've gotten off of your life course and you're not happy in your current life path, there's always a chance to change it. And the example I keep going back to is this older woman who was in her 80s and understood that she didn't have to hate gay people, not all gay people. This one person who perpetrated a horrible crime who just happened to be gay. Yeah, I can understand the hatred there, and I can understand that you wouldn't be happy with the situation of somebody murdering a family member of yours. I completely understand it, but it doesn't mean that you hate all people. So regardless of who or what this person would have been, you wouldn't hate all men or hate all white men or whatever this person was who perpetrated this crime. You don't need to hate because hate's not going to get you where you need to be. You need to forgive this individual for what they've done and hope that they have a better spiritual journey and pray for the souls that were lost in this process. It's hard, but we have just a couple of things that we have to do to have the best spiritual journeys in our, one is to always forgive. And that's one of the hardest things that we ever have to do on this plane is to forgive people who wrong us. I will guarantee that none of us get through this plane without hurting other people intentionally or unintentionally. And similarly, we are hurt intentionally and unintentionally. And anything that you can do to mitigate that or to forgive people who do that, because you don't know what is happening. It could be from as easy as somebody flipping you off at an intersection and causing problems, or it could be somebody who, involve themselves in some nasty way into your marriage or into your childhood in some way and inflicted a lot of pain, or it could be from a parent to a child. There's those things that parents sometimes do to their children. I just don't understand, the way that the way that they're treated, or even children to parents. There's all kinds of ways that human beings can hurt another human being. And it becomes sometimes very, very personal. But learning how to forgive that individual for doing it, because that person doesn't care. It's not affecting their spiritual journey at all. The one that the spiritual journey is being affected by it is you. And the moment that you release that, and you don't ever have to forget, but at least you have to come to terms with the fact that forgiving that action gives you the freedom no longer to hate, no longer to be angry, no longer to have these negative emotions that do take away and take the place of happy emotions. So as many of those that you can get rid of out of your life makes your spiritual journey much, much better. So try and do that if you can. The other aspect, So, you have forgiveness on one hand, and you also have love on the other great human emotion. The more that you're able to give of yourself. I read something the other day where um, somebody told me via Facebook that they had I think it was a commencement speech where the speaker asked the student class to, when they think about how to have the best life possible, was to give, to give, to give, and to give. And when you wake up the next day and it's a god awful day and it's hard to do, the thing that I'm going to ask you to do again is to give. And it was profound to me to listen to that, because it really is the summation of the human experience in its purest form, as far as what we're supposed to do as spiritual beings. Now, again, that doesn't always align with our professional career aspirations, perhaps, or with our family. But at its essence, the more that you're able to give, giving is better than receiving. But you will get it back tenfold. It just does. It happens. I can't explain it, but the saying comes from a reality. It's better to give than to receive, because you will get it back. It will come. And you don't do it with the expectation that it will. You do it because you want to, and because it's the right thing to do. So if I get asked a lot of times, how can I have the best spiritual journey? And those are the two ways that I'm going to tell you. And again, it's going to be different from every person, because every person's journey is different. I always harken back to, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was with Billy Crystal in it, where they were cowboys. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the movie. But Billy Crystal character was sitting there with the character, I think his name was Curly. It's like, what's the meaning of life? And he said, the meaning of life is one thing, just one thing. He said, well, what's the one thing? He said, it's different for everybody. Same thing here. It's just different for everybody. So everybody's spiritual journey, we're all here to learn different things. How we learn, if we're learning, if we're on a different path to not learn, and we need to get back on our path, that's what we're all trying to figure out. And we're all trying to do it. So try to remember that when you encounter people from now on, that we're all just trying to learn what's in our best interest for our own soul's journey. And hopefully that will make a difference to people as we move along, and hopefully give us all a better spiritual journey as we move through life. I'm going to end a bit earlier today. We do have people coming on at 8 o'clock. And if you have any questions about the spiritual journey, you have a question about your spiritual journey, if you want to share your spiritual journey and you want to do that through the show format, I'd love to do that, because I would think it would be helpful. So if you're brave enough to have that done here on air, happy to help do that. And I think people would maybe help learn from that as well. Try and figure out how to best, have maybe a commonality, trying to figure out what to do and how to best do that. So I wish you all a wonderful week. If you need to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at rapainley@gmail.com. You can also reach me at spiritfocus.com. That's my website. You can see all my videos and that sort of thing there. But you can also reach out to me on Facebook or on Instagram, Robert Painley Medium on both. There's a Robert Painley promotional page, promo page, I don't know what they call it there on Facebook, promo page. So you can reach me there as well. And just go ahead and send me an email, send me a message. I'll be happy to work with you in any way that I possibly can. So have a lovely week, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Spirit Focus with Robert Painley. Thanks.